The Lions book of 2024 added another incredible page, stopping Orange in their tracks for their greatest win under Fags. The power surged to defeat Hawkball with some passion from Ken Hinkley, but when the dust settled, he was right. Jack wasn't going to Sydney. Two massive finals this weekend with the eyes of the nation. The Cats and the Swans both playing in prelims. How's that for equalisation? This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Hello, Joey Montagna.
Hello.
Two-time All-Australian.
Yes, hello, Rabsy. Thank you for that. It is an exciting time of the year. I love prelim week. We will touch on the games a bit later on, but yes, this is where we get to the business end of the season.
Collingwood Carlton Superstar. How am I going, by the way? Collingwood Carlton Superstar.
Look,
Daisy Thomas.
And this explains a little bit too, because there was an awards night on last night. And in true Triple M fashion, we may not have dominated in terms of collecting things, but from all reports and the way most have presented this morning, they've had a good time.
We'll touch on that in fair Dinkum or Fugazi as well. But Damien Barrett, who heads up the AFMA, is here as well.
Hello, Rabs. You're looking very sharp in what I detected to be was it an olive-coloured...
Yeah, I think it was.
Nicely tailored suit. I liked it.
Yeah.
As I said to you, I liked it.
Do you
Thank
head
you,
up
Damo.
Did you go with the navy blue suit?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. It's a white shirt.
What's your official title?
Touch of red in the tie, I think. Yes.
What's your official title in regards to the AFMAs?
Chair or president, maybe. President?
Okay, so
President?
you'd imagine if you were the chair, you'd have some pull over.
You'd think so.
You know, and it's not easy. There's so much great content that gets put out by so many wonderful people.
Don't go there, because I deliberately have nothing to do
No,
with
no,
who.
well,
and we should congratulate your good self.
Well, not just yet. We want to congratulate my new teammate at Channel 7 in Kane Corns. Congratulations. Absolutely dominated. Clean sweep. He's the best
Get out of his
analytics.
backside.
No, he's great. He has so many opinions, and at times I'm happy to jump on the back of them, which is great. But there's part of the night that
Have
I'm
you had
not
one
really...
of your own? Yeah, that's a narrative. Have you had one of your own?
In his defence, apart from me saying draw a line through the Bulldogs, that's probably the last time I wandered into his space, because let's face it.
But you're right anyway.
Well, I was, and we appreciate the Bulldogs fans listening in who are currently on holidays. But it got to the best podcast entertainment category, to which we were nominated, Rabsy.
And our ratings, have our ratings been this year, Rabs?
my goodness.
Very good. I put in the nomination, so I might have to fall on my sword for this one.
YouTube, we got a lot
Flying
of
on
Unbelievable.
YouTube.
podcast listens.
It's the most downloaded show outside of Saturday Rub and Sunday Rub and Friday Huddle.
So you think we're a chance
We're
to win.
flying. We're flying.
How'd we go?
Well, I was watching along on the live stream with
Was there a live stream?
There was. I couldn't quite get in there, but I was bloody excited because I thought,
News to
you know
me.
what? Every now and then you just, we're happy with how we're going. We know how well we're going. We're happy to sit in that. But some recognition is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
And recognition in the way of trophies, fantastic.
Always good.
So when I got the word and was watching along, and it was like, right, our category, here we go, midweek rub. Rabsy's worn an olive suit. He knows it's coming. When he's dressed up like that, you know he's ready to get up and accept the award on behalf of the team. The Ben and Harry podcast.
Yeah, on the Triple M listener stable.
They beat us. They're one person. If this is the impact you're having on this network, I put it to you that you should resign.
You should step
Hang
down.
on. You should step down because of the conflict, because we deserve to win this shit. And the fact that you're sitting there in your big chair with your King's hat on.
was a big chair.
Big chair going, I am
Can
the
I
chair.
say, I thought it was a worthy winner.
Who do you like to listen to more, Ben or Harry? Because it is hard. At times it's hard to figure out who's
Well,
talking.
Ben accepted the award, and he was gracious enough to point out to the room that it was Ben.
Yep. Well, that would have been good news for Jasper, who sat down next to him and said, "G'day, Harry."
That's all right, Daisy.
No,
We don't need
congratulations
awards.
to all the winners,
well
mainly
done.
Footy Talk, who I'm a part of.
Yes,
We did
me
get
too.
best analysis, news breaking. We got all the good
Yep.
gear. So a great night, and well done. It was smooth, very succinct too, watching on that live stream. It was looked
Which
great.
I didn't know existed, and I don't think does, but yeah.
It was quite funny though, Damo, because as you said, Ben Mackay was there to accept the award on behalf of the podcast. Then Michael Klein won for best action photograph, which was Jamie Elliott sitting on Ben Mackay's head. So he had to sit there while it was plastered all around the room.
Yeah. And then Zoe accepted on behalf of listener beautifully.
Yeah, she did a great job.
And we're only joking, of course, Ben.
No, you're not. I think there's a real genuine issue that
Speak
you
for
need to take
yourself.
up with management here, you two. I'm washing my hands of that.
I'll wander down there when they're on next and just have a word.
Sunday
talk.
Rub didn't win either for best radio program.
Well, that'll
What?
do me. See you
Not
later.
even a commendation.
This is
No?
genuine bullshit. I'm done.
It's all your fault.
Your new teammate had a good night.
Dominated.
Yeah.
Who?
The bloke whose opinions you have opinions of.
Yes, Kane.
Oh, Kane. No, mate, of course he should dominate. He dominates the media landscape. He's the best in the business for a reason. That's why we've got him to play second fiddle under me at 7.
I can't wait for that show next year, Daisy and Kane going head-to-head. That's going to be fun.
Has it got its own slot?
We've got to find something for it.
Yeah, we need to. It might just be a social media.
Ooh.
Well, that could get into areas I like. Touch more loose there. Maybe we start a podcast so we can win something.
A couple of huge prelims we're going to touch on. Fair Dinkum or Fugazi. But up next, I'm going to get a drink of water, and Damo's got some news. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Fair Dinkum or Fugazi still to come, plus the prelim predictions. Been a big start on the Midweek Rub this week. Damo, it's time for some news, though, and let's have a look at those prelim finals. They're the toughest games to win in the season, you reckon?
And I just thought we'd open this part of our show today up just with the experiences of both Joey and Daisy in these moments, on these days, and what it means, because you both experienced wins in prelim finals and you both experienced losses. So, take it away, guys. But it is ultimately in many ways, the most fresh day of football, isn't it? Because there's so much at stake and you're so close and you've never been further away.
I reckon it's the first time in the season you actually start to ponder what if. Like you actually let your mind for a little moment drift forward to, if we do win, then we've got the chance at it. But they're the hardest games to win. They're still the best games of football to play in my opinion, because the crowd is 100% and it'll be rolled out all week. There's no corporates. But that is a genuine thing. And when you play for big clubs like I was fortunate to do with the Pies, they would rock up en masse. The noise in some of those is unbelievable. I think it was 2011 when Buddy Franklin kicked a little check-sidey little slider from the pocket. The noise that night is one of the only times I've looked around and gone, holy shit, this joint might fall down. It's awesome. It's what you want to play for. They're hard, they're tough, they're generally played in that right manner. And again, it's the first time this year that you finally sense that, one, the season's coming to an end, but there's genuine excitement about what's going to happen.
Joey, your experiences in the game, the way the games are played themselves, they're slightly different to every week prior to them, aren't they? Is it because the at-stake component to it that people seize up and they don't choke it up, but they seize up in moments?
Yeah, because you're playing for keeps now. I mean, the first thrill for an AFL player is to make a grand final. So this is almost as big as it gets right now, because you want to get into the grand final first of all. So that's how much it means. And then you think about, I think the greatest finals games have generally been prelims. If you think back over history, we always remember grand finals, but some of the prelims are off the charts. We've only got to look at the last few years. I was at the SCG a couple of years ago, the Sydney-Collingwood prelim. That was as loud a game as I've ever heard at the SCG. Last year, again, Collingwood Giants, 1 point.
Again, yeah.
There always seems to be one classic. I know occasionally we have a blowout in one prelim, but we always get one absolute beauty. And this is a big thrill for the players to get through to a grand final, and that's why they play like it.
And then your experiences, 04, 05, 08,
yep.
And then
finally in
09, you get the result you wanted.
Yep, and that was the Rewalt toe poke in the goal square against the Western Bulldogs. In a game we were clear favourites, but had our work cut out. The Bulldogs almost rolled us that night, and the adrenaline that runs through your body to make your first grand final was a highlight. So for these Port Adelaide players in particular, they will be experiencing that if they can get over the line. The other teams have played in grand finals recently, so they've had a bit more experience. But yeah, it's a wonderful occasion, and I love the weekend.
And then one again the following year in 10.
Yeah.
And Days, your first experience was 07. It was almost a year before Collingwood was meant to be the good team, and you pushed the eventual premier that year all the way to a one-kick result, Geelong.
Yeah, a controversial non-advantage paid to Scotty Pendlebury, which would have been a goal, might have been called back for a ball-up or something. I remember that. But also, I remember sitting there the next week and Geelong did the number on Port Adelaide and sitting there going, I'm 2 years in here and I already have that fire in my belly because that could have been us. There is always that thought, if you do lose one, that could have been us. There's moments that should have been us. I just love the fact that, in my opinion, from this point on, it's how footy should be played. In terms of it is hard, it is tough. Most of the sides that make it through the year are better defensively, but they're also unbelievable at contested possession. That's why there is so many big moments of just contest after contest, and then more often than not, a little bit of class shines through.
And just to sign off, you then lost the 09 one, but won in 10 and 11 and lost in 12.
Yeah, well, and again, 11 was unbelievable. Someone ran down Surioli, pretty fast bloke with only moments to go, to put their side through. Again, it hurts. Like, losing grand finals is a different sort of emotional hurt because you have got there and there is a 50-50 chance you're going to win it. When you put yourself out there, you're good enough to make it to the prelim and then you just fall short again. It is a bitter pill to swallow. the grand finals, as I say, are emotional, but this is a different sort of hurt when you lose a prelim.
Yep. We're learning there's a clean out of sorts underway at Carlton Footy Club. Jack Martin, Matt Kennedy, Lewis Young, Caleb Marchbank. There's still some unknown around Matt Owies and others. I believe they're all doing this to reset and to give themselves the best chance at getting access to Dan Houston. You take guys on these experienced type of players, particularly Kennedy, who has played a lot of footy for Carlton and is a much-loved member of the training squad. He's contracted for next year, but has been told, go and explore the market.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I like it. I think at times clubs can be too safe with their lists and the way they, aren't aggressive enough at either trade or free agency. And I think that Carlton and all the names you mentioned, you listen to them, you go, they could all play in a team. They're all good enough players, but you can't have a team full of those types of players. You need to be able to reset. And I like it that Carlton can't just keep doing what they've been doing year after year and expect to get different results. They need to change it up to some extent. So, yes, that might mean there's some casualties and some good players that aren't in the team anymore. But take the risk. Take the risk that it's going to improve your list. And obviously they feel that it will, and it'll take them where they want to get to. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, in the same camp. I thought initially I was looking at the list and going, geez, there's some...
Good player.
Solid player. Yeah. He's solid enough. But you're right. If you don't change anything, you're going to get the same results. And the good news, I think, is there'll be opportunity now. So Matty Kennedy, who I believe should be playing senior footy regularly, he was last in, first out a lot of the time. He was used in different roles, forward, mid, and thrown around a little bit. He'll get the opportunity now to find a suitor and for them to say, hey, we want you as a genuine mid, or we want you to play the hybrid role. So I think there's more clarity. Marchbank, I still think's got a lot of good footy left in him, whether or not his body can hold up. So there'll be opportunities on the back of this, but I like the fact that Carlton are making a bit of a stance now, saying we need to get better, and this is what we've identified.
Geelong's team, which beat and did a number on Port Adelaide in the qualifying final, had 9 players who weren't part of their 2022 premiership. Now, they'll get Tom Stewart back for the prelim final, so let's work with the number of 8. That's still a big turnaround in the space of 2 seasons, which was a premiership year, and there's every likelihood that these 4 names will not be part of that prelim final and most likely a grand final if they get through. Tom Hawkins, Cam Guthrie, who won the best and fairest or shared it with Jeremy Cameron in 2022. Sam de Koning, who was a superstar in the context of that season for that club in 2022, and Gary Rowan, who is now dealing with a serious head issue. But they're 4 quality big game players who Geelong Football Club right now has the luxury of not including in a prelim final.
It's incredible, isn't it? Just goes to the quality of the football club and the coach that they can have these guys not even in the team. They can change it up from a side that won a premiership a couple of years ago and be contending and a favourite to make another grand final. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know what else you can say about this football club.
But so they've got Manor, who's keeping holding down a spot. Best on ground in a VFL grand final, comes in now playing an important role in that forward line, a pressure play, but also hitting the scoreboard.
At the age of 26, 27.
You've got Lawson Humphrey up the other end, who looks like he could have been doing it for 50 games before what he is now. Geelong are incredible.
Ollie Dempsey.
Ocean Mullen, an Irishman, just another one they bring in.
It is incredible how good they are at continually finding and bettering players, and that's the key. Depth to a side is the key as to how you continue to go deep. They've clearly got that with the names that are missing, and we all sit back and marvel at the Cats, and again, it looks like they're going to get bolstered in the trade period by a couple of really solid players as well.
Bailey Smith for starters.
Yeah.
One more too, Dusty Martin. We learnt during the week that what had been in play potentially for the best part of 18 months, maybe even another 12 months on top of that, is now indeed in play. That is that the possibility of him playing for Gold Coast Suns in 2025 is that story. This is purely driven, to this point anyway, by Dusty Martin. Now, the Gold Coast has always had an awareness of this situation, but it has been driven by the Dustin Martin camp for that period of time. And if it is to happen, it will be on Gold Coast Suns terms. And I believe those terms will be as little as $400,000, possibly less per season for Dusty if he wants to go down that path.
Give me a percentage, Joey. The chances of him going
10 to 20%. He's most likely not going to play for Gold Coast next year. That's my understanding. That's
you've been big on that all year.
Yeah, I have been, and it's interesting. I want to ask you about this narrative change. I mean, you're right. There's been talk about Gold Coast being interested in Dusty for years, and then Damien Hardwick was in his ear mid-year and sort of talking about it. Why now is this whole narrative that everyone's running with it? It's now Dustin Martin ringing up the Gold Coast Suns when they were so keen on him for 18 months. It's interesting that I feel that the way this sort of narrative's flipped.
They're keen to have that presented, and they are the facts of it. I can absolutely guarantee that, Joey, that part of it is Dustin Martin driving this, or people around Dustin Martin, I should say. And they're going to consider it. There's absolutely going to consider it, but it's not. They're not all in on it, and it will be on their terms on a number of fronts, including the money attached. And there won't be AFL ambassador money attached to it. There just can't be. I mean, you need to be prepared to talk into a microphone at least once in 10 years if you want to get some ambassador money.
Yeah, I mean, my probably feel is, and we've spoken about this throughout the year, Dustin has had a lot going on, a lot in his mind about what his future wants to look like. Does he retire? Does he want to play on? Does he want to go to another club? And if it's something simple as a manager ringing up the club saying, are you still interested in Dustin? Because he's still, wrestling with, do I want to play again? Do I want to retire? Maybe that's the extent of it. But no, I'll stick to my guns that as much as there is this talk, and I know it'll work through trade period, I can't see him playing for Gold Coast next year.
Yep.
Couple of massive prelims to preview soon, but up next, it's Fair Dinkum or Fugazi and Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Joey Montagna, starting with you, mate. No one will lose more sleep over GWS's loss than Brent Daniels.
Oh, yeah, that's a big Fair Dinkum to kick it off. A couple of 50-metre penalties, one that cost a goal. His advantage where he took the kick off the ground in the goal square cost another goal. Dale, that cost him the prelim.
I'd argue Adam Kingsley might be.
Well, I was
losing
actually
more
going to
sleep
say
than
that.
Brent
He
Daniels.
will be not far behind him. They can maybe stay up together.
Have you watched that game back?
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah, same.
Still can't work out.
I still can't work out, but I also can't work out why when you kick the first goal of the last quarter, you don't change the style in which the game was played.
Well, they sort of try to chip it around a little
Yeah,
bit. I
but
think they get confused between playing their style and handball forward and keep it moving and then trying to go slow, and I reckon they haven't quite figured it
I
out.
would have rolled somebody just behind the football.
Yeah.
Just had an extra somewhere. So you can kick it sideways or then explore other options. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I think that one's a bit tough on young Brent.
Do you?
Yeah. I'll just blame the coach.
Damo, we shouldn't be surprised a bloke named Burgoyne stood up in a final.
That is absolutely fair, Dinkum. The uncle did it many times, and I still go back to the 04 grand final where Byron Pickett got the nod as Norm Smith medalist, but Peter Burgoyne, the old man, he was extraordinary in that first half of that game. But from my memory anyway, in setting up that Port Adelaide win over Brisbane Lions. So, yeah, I love the game of Jace Burgoyne last week. He was with genuine authority and clean disposals and a preparedness to run hard and kick what was ultimately the match securing goal for the Power.
Daisy, he's played 2 now. Will Ashcroft's poise and power stands out even more in finals.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum as well. In these games, if you are clean with the football, when it's getting tough and hard, that stands out. You don't waste a possession. And the kids come back in. You can see the hunger he has and how he's openly spoken about where he thinks he should be. He believes he's there for the big moments. He wants the big moments. And for that reason, that is 100% fair dinkum.
Joey, as your mate David King said, Jai Newcomb is a top 10 player in the competition.
Nah, come on, Kingy. That's Fugazi. He's a star and he's a beauty. But when you think top 10, like you don't have to think. So you can reel off 6 without even blinking when you go Dacos.
Top 150?
No, he's definitely he's a star. I think top 10 is just a slight reach, but he's a star.
Give us a top what then? 50?
Well, no, he's inside top 50 for sure.
25?
Probably top 25 without doing the numbers.
You do get to 25 rather quickly, though.
Well, that's still pretty good, isn't
that's
it?
what I mean,
Yeah.
Damo, the 5:15 p.m. time slot for Geelong versus Brisbane is a preview for the future grand final time.
Fugazi, if they're going to finally do what they should do and get with the times and do it in the proper nighttime slot, don't make it 5:15, make it 6:30 or 7:30. So Fugazi.
I love that time slot, though.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. There's something about the afternoon, the sun setting, and what you can then do from a half-time point of view, pre-game point of view, and still get out and have a decent time.
Do you think they'll start that way, though, Damo? Do you think eventually we'll get to a night grand? But do you think they'll start by making it a twilight, then they'll move to a night?
Yeah, and just to back over that, I get what the fans think they want, but the fans will not watch it when they move it to the night time.
In fact, more will probably watch.
I've got no doubt. And it's just staggering to think that every game, every marquee slot, every club asks for a Friday night or a Saturday night or even a Sunday twilight. The only slot they never ask for is 2:30 Saturday afternoon. So it just does not make sense.
Daisy, your boy Zach Butters showed he's one of the toughest players in the league.
100%. You don't get voted most courageous for nothing. The first 2 contests that kid had on the weekend was absolutely incredible. And again, we've seen it time and time again. No regard for his body or his own safety, just whatever it took for the side. He was brilliant, and that's a great way to answer any critics or anyone who fired some criticism.
You want to go down that path again, do you, for a second?
No,
I'm just new teammate.
He wasn't alone, that being Kane Corns in the comments he said. And I think
he was alone, wasn't he?
Well, probably.
I didn't recall anyone else saying it.
But in terms of that, it's nice to have a strong opinion, the fact that he is tough as buggery, and then he goes out and backs it up.
Joey, Tom Green's performance is an all-time great one for a finals loss.
I wouldn't have thought that being at the game. He played well. He played well in the final against Sydney as well. So I'll say Fugazi. There's been some epic performances in losses. Think of Gary Ablett Sr. He was terrific, but not one of the all-time greats, no.
Damo, James Sicily's career arc from hothead to great leader is a remarkable footy story.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum. I think people at Hawthorn always felt he had it in him. Maybe the public hadn't when they first announced him as captain, but you can see it, and you can even see the way he carries himself. I feel he was dealing with his own mental demons in that moment with Ken Hinkley, but he was still there for his teammate as well. So I loved every aspect of that Ken Hinkley moment. I love what he did to it too. He actually helped create it a bit, and he was just there for his teammate when he needed him to be.
Sticking with you, Damo, Jordan Sweet mows the lawns for the Saka as a side hustle. Between him and Nathan Lyon, the Saka greenkeepers must be the most highly credentialed in the world.
Trying to think of another one on the spot. So that's fair dinkum. Yeah. I can't. Look, what a performance, because Lloyd Meek had all the focus coming out of the elimination final weekend into that semi-final, and I won't say he did a number on him, but he got his measure, didn't he? I think it's fair to say Sweet got Meek's measure. Meek still tried hard for the entire game, but it was a key performance by the big Port ruckman.
And the rundown tackle on Mabi or Chol going inside
what a moment.
52.
Yeah, because he had nothing left before he started that run. He had absolutely nothing left when he got up.
We've already touched on this in the opener, Daisy. Having the AFMAs on a Tuesday every year is not ideal for the Midweek Rub production team.
Couldn't agree more. That is the biggest fair income of the day. Have a look at the state of you cretins out there. You all need to have a look in the mirror and just really see if this job is for you on this day.
It's a normal day for Jasper, isn't
yeah,
it?
I was going to say, we've seen Jasper work, let's be honest.
Joey, the Midweek Rub will never win an AFMA gong, despite being the best podcast going around, because Damo Barrett just doesn't want to appear conflicted.
Yeah, that's 100%. That is fair income. It's a conflict of interest. They can't be seen to be giving the chair of the AFMAs an award, so we're never going to win it. But
is that the only reason?
Yeah, that's the only reason. Otherwise, we win it every year.
Daisy, the goal from the boundary gets all the accolades, but Joe Danaher's one-on-one mark against Sam Taylor is one of the all-time finals moments.
Yeah, that is a big moment. All-time, again, probably a slight stretch. If they go through to win a grand final, though, it probably elevates it. That goal there was as clutch as the other one.
Could become bigger, couldn't it?
Yeah.
In that, as Nick Davis's moments
Correct.
were already big, but they became legendary.
And even that, like Sam Taylor one-on-one is the hardest job in football. The fact that Joe was good enough to hold his space and strength, come off and release, but then to go back and kick the goal. The first one was nearly a free hit from the boundary. Yes, it was a big moment in the game, but the expectation of kicking it is low. When you're 15 metres out slide angle, it is expected that you go back and kick it. For a bloke who clearly has some head noise in that space, it was brilliant to see him step up.
Damo, if he's as astute as we think he is, as we think he is, Jack Ginnivan should be reaching out to Flight Centre for a sponsorship deal.
Yeah, fair dinkum. And I think he just should make sure that he gets himself to the SCG anyway and just post a little photo of himself. See, told you.
He should just send a little message on Instagram to Port Adelaide, say, good luck this week, boys, or something like that. Like, wouldn't that cause us
He won't after the week he's had.
Rock up and
How good would that be?
way.
Sit in the crowd with the Swans jumper on.
Finally, I'm going to stick with you again, Damo. The drama of Brisbane's win over GWS overshadowed the biggest story in footy from Saturday. North Melbourne's best and fairest.
Why do you load me up? Keep me going and then act shocked when I bag this club. What I will leave you with, when you throw in Hawthorn's one finals win on top of the 14 wins they had in the home and away season this year, that came after round 5. So after round 5, Hawthorn has now had as many wins, including a final, as North Melbourne has had in the past 5 seasons.
Is now not a good time to ask you about Jack Darling?
Oh, please.
Fair dinkum all Fugazi. Jack Darling will turn the future of this side around within 6 months.
We better go to a break.
I'll save you, Dan. I'll save you. We are going to preview the 2 massive prelims coming up next. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Huge games this weekend. Friday night, Sydney versus Port Adelaide, and then Geelong versus Brisbane from the MCG 5:15. We're going to preview those games right now, Joey Montagna. Let's start with the Swans and the Power.
Well, I've done some work over the last couple of days to make a case, and a strong case, on why Port Adelaide can actually win this. I know it feels like this is the one that everyone just presumes the Sydney Swans, but
hang on, did you set out with this as the task?
No,
to try and convince yourself?
Just having a look for a segment for tonight for the watch list and making a case for Port Adelaide. And if they can turn this into a scrap and turn it into an arm wrestle, they are every chance of winning this game. And that is what they have been doing on the run home. You know, in the last 11 weeks, they've only conceded more than 75 points twice in the last 11 weeks of the season. They are defending really, really well. Now, the Geelong game, yes, was a disaster, and that's probably still fresh in people's minds. But if you take the body of work, the bigger portion of footy, they are defending really well. If they can make this a scrap and not turn into a turnover game and a shootout and up and back and do what they did against Hawthorn and keep it contest and stoppage-based and set up defensively, they can win an arm wrestle. They're 11-2 this year in games being decided by under 160 points, total points. So low-scoring games, so that's 80 points apiece, as a rough sort of guide. They're 11-2 in those games. When it opens up into a high-scoring game, they're 5-6. So I don't think a shootout will work for them against the Sydney Swans. If they make it a scrap, which they can do, they're right in this game.
Did beat Sydney by 112 points only 5 weeks ago, whatever that is. Also won the last 8 against them. So they know how to beat the Swans. At the moment, I think the emotional come down from what the weekend was, I've got a little bit of a sense that felt like their grand final to some regard. They needed to respond. They did. It was a hard game. You've got the Swans sitting there who haven't had to do anything except put some bloody lotion on themselves to not get burnt up there in Sydney. I think this is a game that they will try and shut down Port, but I think the class on the outside, and I'm tipping the small forwards from Sydney to have an absolute field day.
Yep. That's the only issue for Port, is able to stop Sydney for the whole 120 minutes. They only need a burst of 1 quarter or 15 minutes or a half a game, and they can break this one open. So that is Port's absolute their challenge.
Have to start well.
Yep.
First 15 minutes, if they're behind in that, I think that's game did.
They covered extraordinarily well for Farrell and Houston being out against Hawthorn. I just don't know whether they can do it for a second week again against a very quality opponent. I'm hearing what you're saying about the Port team, Joey, but I do like the Swans in this one.
Any match winners from either side for Sydney and the Power, you think?
Well, I think Isaac Heaney's the match winner. So it makes sense for me that Willem Drew just goes to Heaney and not allow him to do what he did in the last quarter against Collingwood, the last quarter against the Giants, and just win the game off his own bat. So that's the big matchup for me for Port Adelaide if they're a chance.
I'll give you Will Hayward for Sydney. I think he's one that can go under the radar but still have a real impact, kick 3 or 4.
What about the Power? Where's their win going to come from?
Well, it's their star-starter midfield. They won the game and didn't really hit their straps. Like Zach Butters was only okay. Horn Francis was probably their best player still. And Rosie, and as I said, with Will and Drew and Ollie Wines, that's where the opportunity is for Port Adelaide.
The skipper, Connor Rosie, has to stand up, have a real impact. He's been very good. He's been very good throughout the season, but that reputation he's made in September, and question how he's gone in the first couple of games. This is a real opportunity for him to stand up for his football club regardless of result.
What about the other game, Daisy? Geelong versus Brisbane from the MCG.
Well, a little bit of the same. The Brisbane Lions, I'm still just so unsure of how they have won that game of football. They are here, which is the only thing that really matters now. But again, the Cats, the week off with a list that they have, they've just found a way all season long. There's no doubt that Brisbane has the talent on the list to certainly match them, but I think the way the Cats play will suit a final style more so than what the Brisbane Lions. The Lions forward line is susceptible, I think, to some decent pressure on ball, and then the way Geelong set up and will play from there is, I think, where the game will be won and lost, and for that reason, I think Geelong will get the chocolates.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that way. I think it's another beauty, 50-50 game. Brisbane have got talent. They can win off the back of that talent, and they've got resilience and character now. I mean, that win was massive, and it's been building for a number of years, even to get back into this season off the start they had and some dramas at the start of the year. So they do have a lot of character, this group. I just think about the coaching of Chris Scott. He's had 2 weeks to prepare. They play a finals brand of footy, contest-based, that low possession, but effective, and that they defend really well as a group. Brisbane are going to have their work cut out. They've been beaten twice in prelims comprehensively against the Cats. So that's the challenge. I'll lean towards Geelong.
What about some match winners? Again, from that game, Geelong and the Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, the matchups again for me, the pressure that's going to be on Noah Answorth, Darcy Wilmot and Starcevic to take care of the Geelong Smalls, because I thought they did a really good job against the GWS Giants Smalls. I know Toby Green kicked a few and played better than he had the week earlier, but those guys, if they can stop sort of Myers and Stengel and Close and Manor, whichever the matchups look like, that's going to go a long way, because that is the point of difference for the Cats.
I'm going the other end. I'm looking at Rayner, also Charlie Cameron and the small forwards of the Lions. They need to have more of an impact than what they did on the weekend. So if that's an area they can get on top, that'll give them a chance. Lockie Neal, Damo, he's been in a moon boot. Any newsy stuff out of this?
No, it's just that he's going to have to play, as he has now done for 3 or 4 weeks, through some significant pain issues. He has now spoken quite graphically, publicly about what he's been enduring. It is I believe, a bruised heel, so to speak, and they're not nice. Anyone who's had them will know how painful they are, and the needle that needs to go in to numb the pain is almost as bad as the pain. So, yeah, look, he'll play, and Will Ashcroft stepped up in his absence last week. Just having him out there will be a reassuring element of the Lions. But I think with you, Joey, I think it's a line ball game. This one's going to be really close. It won't. I don't see it being as a blowout, but I just feel the Cats will do enough when the sirens sounds.
And what about the Brownlow? Looking towards next Monday night, of course. Our show will go on after that. So we need to give a Brownlow prediction before we finish up today.
Yeah, I think this will be one of the more epic Brownlow medals we've seen in years, because I do think it comes down to Cripps and Dacos, and the way that they played the final couple of games each. This is how it'll pan out, in my opinion. Dacos, round 23, v Richmond Friday night. He gets the 3 votes, and he goes ahead of Cripps. And then it's a matter of the Cripps v St Kilda game, when the Saints won because of the Jack Higgins goal. How many votes the umpires give Cripps? 1 might be enough to tie.
He only played the third quarter.
I know, he was brilliant though in that third quarter. He broke the game open, but that's why it's a 1 voter, 2 voter, or a 3 voter, or he could get none, honestly, in that game, because it was off the back of 1 quarter and they did lose. So that's going to be the deciding factor. It'll be set up right for the finish.
I still got Bont doing enough finally. I know he's twice come second with 33 votes once and 30 in another one, and I reckon he's might be this year.
Terrifying for Paddy Cripps that Nick Newman could cost him a Brownlow.
Yes,
he was
that's
unbelievable
right.
in that game. I'm still going with the tie. It's been the weirdest season on record. I think a tie would be fitting. Nick Dacos had an unreal year. The same with Cripper. And I think it'll be very, very close across the board too, with 4 or 5 chances really late into this season.
Well, the Brownlow is Monday night, but 2 massive finals before them. You can catch it all on Triple M and the Listen app. Starting with the Friday huddle, all the boys are headed to Sydney for Sydney versus Port Adelaide.
Are you heading up, Days?
What about the ins for this game?
Out Chieftain.
Chief.
In Days.
So that's it. What's that, about 1,400 goals between us?
Yeah.
Very good players.
Well, make sure you're listening to the Friday huddle from 6 p.m. on Triple M and the Listener app. This has been the Midweek Rub.